Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Spiritual Journey podcast. My name is Nimesh Radia, and I'm your host. I always love starting the podcast by saying thank you. I feel so very blessed with this podcast and the people it gets to. I started with the intention of guiding people on the spiritual journey to simplify spirituality, and all the messages I get on a weekly basis is clearly getting to people, and people are finding it when they need it most, and that was always my intention. I'm an Akashic record reader, I'm a Akashic trainer, I'm a podcast host, podcast creator, as well as a spiritual coach and mentor. I love what I get to do. I love to guide people to shine their beautiful light, to be authentic, to really understand your purpose on this planet. I get to do that, and I love the fact I get to do that. So the other thing I get to do is also get to interview some amazing guests on this podcast. I feel very blessed with the beautiful souls that have been guests, and I'm so excited for the guests I have today. And I only met Kim recently, and I always feel that people are divinely guided to me at the right time, and energetically there's a match and there's a connection. And after we spoke, I knew she'd be a great guest. So Kim, welcome to this podcast, and I'd love for you to introduce yourself.
Thank you so much. I'm grateful to be here. My name is Kim. I am a multifaceted soul living this human experience. I am an authentic truth seeker. I'm highly sensitive. I love fiercely, feel deeply, and intend to leave this earth with no regrets. I am also a mom, a lolly or a grandmother. I am a wife, a sister, a daughter, a friend, a coach, a mentor, and a healer that really wants to try and make the world a better place.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, you're also a soul having human experience, right? And I love the conversations we've had and how authentic they are. You're definitely a heart-led person, which is beautiful. And I love the divine timing of things, right? So we're recording this on 10:10. So if you're listening, hopefully you can feel the energy of the portal, even if the portal's passed. It's a very powerful time. It also, ironically, is the day that I released the episode with Yanthi. And Yanthi, I know you and Yanthi have recently started a podcast together, so I'm excited about that. I always love starting the episode. Bear in mind, it's the portal and the energy is high. Just talking about the current energy. For me, the current energy, and I talk a lot about on the podcast, is I feel like we're shifting from divine masculine to divine feminine, and the divine masculine is in crisis. And I feel like the energy right now, not just with the portal, but I feel like the veil is thinner. I feel like our connections to our emotions are getting more connected. We're feeling what we're feeling. I also feel that those that are here to guide and mentor need to kind of go through things at an intense level. So I guess, to the listener of the podcast, if you are going through something intense, know that you are going through it because it is teaching you something, it's guiding you. You are kind of going through it because also it's part of your soul journey, your soul contract. And maybe you're going through it because you're meant to guide others through, and maybe they don't need to feel the pain as much as you're feeling. And we were talking about this before we started recording, is I do feel that as mentors and teachers, we're meant to go through things at a more of an intense level so we can guide others. So Kim, as I talked to you about, how are you finding the current energy? What are you experiencing with the people you talk to, and kind of what can you share with us?
Yeah, I agree that the energy has been quite intense and a very different kind of intense recently over the past, I don't know, really for me over the past couple of months, it has like magnified. And I have found that, yes, the veil to be very thin. I've been tapping in a lot more easily, been getting downloads, waking me up in the middle of the night. And despite the fact that I'm trying to, set boundaries and be like, not now, not now. It's such an interesting and beautiful time. Intense is how I really have been describing it. on a visceral level, feeling it in the body and having to take it really slow. I have historically been a very active person. I have a previous career in the fitness industry. So, fitness is something that is really important to me. But my workouts have been like stretching, yoga, just taking it really, really slow, having to hydrate. I think like I need at least 3 liters of water a day to get through and keep things moving. And yeah, I've never experienced it this intense before. I've kind of been on this journey of these cycles of like death, rebirth, death, rebirth, death, rebirth. And as of recently, they have been, yeah, just so intense. Like if I try to push through and not listen to my body, I'm going to pay for it. Like, and when I say pay for it, I'm going to be in bed with a migraine and unable to move. So yeah, it's just like slow down, embrace it and surrender and just be here for the ride.
I love it. I love it. And that's actually really great advice right now is that, if you are going through something, if you are feeling something, that self-care, that rest, staying hydrated, some time in nature and just being present is really, really good thing to do. It's just because the other thing I'm finding is everyone feels like they're going through this on their own. Everyone kind of feels that spiritually lonely. The spiritual journey can be really lonely. It is because we're a soul having that unique experience. And, it's that nobody can relate. Nobody's going through the same thing. And it's kind of true, but it doesn't mean that you can't find people who can hold your space, who can understand. And the other thing I always recommend is speaking your truth and finding a platform and a way to do that. And I know recently you started a podcast. I've heard some of it. It's amazing. I've seen a lot on social media as well. So you and Iante, I always get have a beautiful energy together. But I also
Thank you.
feel it's a great way of releasing, and it's a great way for you guys to process. So, what's your experience of the podcast been? How have you feel? You shining your light, you kind of sharing your truth. How's that been?
Good. I love it. It feels like it's meant to be. It feels good. Yeah. And I would say it is a release and it does help us process. And yeah, the spiritual journey can be very isolating. And I have, come to this point where I'm like, I want to share. I want people to see themselves in me or just know that I'm a safe person when they are feeling like that, because there are times throughout my own journey where I have felt like this can't be real. This is really happening to me, or am I just crazy? At times I did question my sanity and I didn't always feel safe to talk about it and take up space in that way. So I think it's really important for us to share from the heart and share like the crazier and the more honest and authentic that we can share, in my opinion, the better.
The interesting thing is, one person's crazy is another person's normal. I really,
Amen.
I sometimes it's like if if somebody heard some of the conversations that I have about spiritual journeys, and I, I'm sure some people would think I'm a little crazy, but it's just it's our take and our perspective on life. I'd love for you to share some of these crazy experiences, whatever's in your heart, and maybe somebody can relate and realize maybe their crazy experiences are, I wouldn't call them normal, but are expansive. Let me put it that way. Anything
Yeah.
you can share that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess for me, it has been a journey of following my heart and learning to listen to my intuition and allow that to guide me, even when it makes no sense, even when it's scary, and having to learn the difference between fear and intuition, because for a long time I made my decisions based on fear and what my mind was telling me. So there was a lot of deconditioning. And, there my awakening has been not a one-time event. It has been many different awakenings. And I think, some of the crazy things for me, or not crazy, I think really beautiful, but things that I would be afraid I would have been afraid, and I was afraid to talk about because I was afraid of people not understanding or being judged. You know, being told that I'm a helper, and just having this burning desire inside to follow that road, and quitting my corporate career without having a stable income and just following the breadcrumbs um, along the way. I don't think very many people would walk away from a six-figure career without replacing that because their intuition told them that there's something that they're meant to do.
Yeah.
Having their husband say, no, you can't do that, and and doing it anyway. Um, and then I think, I had this water purification ceremony that took place when I was in Bali. And that really woke me up to being a healer. I knew that I wanted to be a helper, and I thought it was coaching. I started a coaching practice. I became certified as a coach. I just knew that I needed to help people, and I couldn't wait. Like, go, 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 go. But when I was in Bali, I had this water purification ceremony, and I just had this energy shoot through my heart, and everything became so bright. And all I heard was, you are a healer. And it still didn't make sense at that point. I was like, okay,
What does that mean? How do you put that?
yeah. And it's just been literally following the breadcrumbs. And a lot of people are like, I don't know how you do it. It seems insane, but it feels right to me.
And that's the thing, is that I do feel that, because when we talk about death and rebirth, and we can go deeper into that, it's kind of like, sounds like an easy thing to say, right? But that's what we're all going through. I really feel like a lot of people are being pushed to do something different. And I get it's a leap of faith, right? It's a trust fall. That's really what we've been asked to do right now. And I relate to it. I mean, I left a very senior role in a corporate business, six-figure salary, and it's kind of nice to have that safety net. It's nice to, but actually I got to a place I couldn't stay. I didn't even feel like it was a choice.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I was being sacked or anything. It was like I chose to resign. I chose to leave. I didn't even get any sort of severance because it was my choice to leave. And I'm sure. I mean, I make my own decisions, but I'm sure there's lots of people around me thought I was crazy. Really do. There were some people that knew me that kind of knew that this was coming, and then I remember a conversation with a manager at the time, and she's like, and I'd only known her for this manager for a year and a half, but she's like, when I met you, I knew you were here for bigger things, and I'm not surprised you're leaving. And I was like, wait, hold on, she's, and I was just like, okay, that was for me, that was a good recognition that I am on the path that I'm meant to be. And it's just when you talk about the healer, that reminds me of another story. So I was always had this impression that, I'm a teacher, I'm a coach, I was doing mentoring, and kind of, at the time I was still in the corporate world and I was mentoring lots of people, so I was teaching lots of things. So again, in my head, same as you, I was a teacher. And I was at a soul spa with my mentor Sidra, and those that listen to the podcast know that she's left this realm and she's now one of my guides. But she did this process where she took us through a guided meditation, and basically a different color, what color you pick says you're either a teacher, a carer, or a healer. And we went through this meditation. It was the last thing. It was the end of the day, and I went through this. I didn't really think much about it. I just thought, great meditation. Through the meditation, I got the color of a healer. I was like, okay, that's interesting. I didn't, again, go through too much deep into it. And I was just like, okay, I'm a healer. Great. Next day, Sidra does this thing where she talks to everybody in like a circle, just to kind of, and she has normal conversations with everybody else. How was your day? Did you do the home plays? We never called it homework. We'd always called it home play, because work is hard, play is, fun. So when she came to me, I always had a different conversation with her. She just said, "What color were you?" And I'm just like, "What do you mean? This was the day before." I was like, "What do you mean, what color?" She's like, "In the meditation yesterday, what color were you?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, I think it was purple, which was healer. I remember it was healer. I can't remember the exact color." And then she just said to me, "The day you accept you're a healer, the day your life will become simpler." That's all she said. She moved on, and I'm like, "Wait, hold on. I need to carry on this conversation." And it's just like she just left it, and it was so powerful and it's so true. The day that we accept our role, because it's our human mind that says that we're here to teach. This is what we do. But what if we accept we're here to heal? What if
Yes.
that our vibration, our energy is healing on its own? Yes, we can learn modalities. You can learn Akasha record readings. You can learn Reiki. You can learn um, tarot card reading, whichever. But for me, they're modalities. I think the healing techniques, which are powerful and sure they're soul given, i.e., the soul knows how to. But we have to realize that we are the gift. We are the healer. So thank you for. So I'm curious now. Once you accepted that you're a healer, how was that shift for you inside?
It's been kind of grueling to be well, not grueling, but it's like I accepted it, but it was kind of like a half acceptance. So it's like, okay, it's like I kept getting these messages. That wasn't the first time that I got a message that I was a healer, and like I got a message probably a year and a half before that when I was building the coaching business. I got this message and it was, "You are an energy healer. You're a healer. You don't need to learn anything else. You just need to tap in and take really good care of yourself and connect." And I remember telling my mentor, and she was like, "Yeah, go with it." And I was like, "Okay." And I continued to take really good care of myself, but I kind of forgot about it. And I started learning different modalities, and I couldn't agree more that these modalities are beautiful tools, but it's when we recognize and own that we are the healer that the magic really starts to happen. So yeah, I would like get these messages and then I'd kind of let them go, and trusting that whatever's meant to be is going to come into fruition one way or another. I don't need to obsess over it. But it was really quite recent that I just got this in meditation. For the first time, I felt my own power. And it was so overwhelming that I was like, from that moment on, I was like, I do not care what my mind tells me or what other people are going to think, because there was a lot of like this imposter syndrome in me still, where I was like, how do I show up and call myself a healer? Who am I to call myself a healer? But from that moment forward, I own it. And I'm like, this is who I am. Take it or leave it. I'm not here for the people that are not ready to hear it. I'm here for the people that do want to hear it, and they do want to believe me, and they do want to experience my healing. And some people may never be ready for that, and that's okay.
Yeah, and that's again, I talk a lot about that too, in terms of we're here to guide, we're here to give people an opportunity, not force anyone to change. The way I look at it is we're a spiritual bridge.
Mm-hmm.
The universe is shifting, whether you call it from divine masculine, divine feminine, whether you call it ascension, whatever your words you want to use, and people are struggling with the shift. And if we can be the example, if we can be the light, then maybe that light helps and guides people to go through a shift too. And it's interesting the way that how do I put this in words? I don't ultimately we're a soul having a human experience, and it doesn't mean that, let's say, we accept that we're a healer. It doesn't mean that all of a sudden everything's going to be easy. But it can mean that everything starts to feel in flow. And it's interesting you said that you got the message about the healer like 18 months before, and because this is what I think the universe does. It gives us messages subtly. The messages start subtle. When we don't feel the nudges, when we don't feel them, and we don't trust the little nudges, the nudges become shoves. When we don't feel the shoves become kicks. When we don't feel the kicks, then it becomes kind of like, pushing over or whatever you want to call it. It's just that. And how does that feel like? This is the deep experiences we have to go through sometimes. And I do believe that sometimes we miss the nudges earlier on, and that's why the experiences can become painful. So I always encourage people to listen to your messages early, take action. And, when I talk about messages, again, a lot of people say, well, I don't receive messages, I'm not sure I've got guides. We all, again, my belief, I believe we all have guides. I believe we're receiving more messages now than before. And how do the messages come through? It could be just your intuition. What do you feel in your heart? And normally what happens is the first thing you feel is normally the message coming from your guides. It's normally lighter. It's normally kind of a lighter voice. It's your ego that's loud. So if you can trust the messages, that for me is a really good thing to do right now. And by the way, I was just thinking about you talking about Bali. I'm in Bali later this year. I'm like, maybe that's the message to me that I need to do a water ceremony. But that's just a side note. But you mentioned earlier that you're receiving a lot more downloads now than you ever have before. What's your journey to your guides been like? What's your spiritual journey, kind of building that connection, feeling them around you and getting the downloads? Can you share anything about that part of your journey?
Yeah, for sure. So I think as a child, I was very connected, and it scared me a lot. I was very intrigued, but also I would be scared because I would sometimes see things, or things would move, and I knew that was not just happening. And as a child, it would freak me out, and I really lost touch with myself for quite a long time. I was in an abusive marriage, and I was completely dysregulated. I was on psych meds, struggling with anxiety, depression, and really looking for answers in everybody but myself. So there's been this journey of coming back home to myself first and foremost, being able to reconnect with my intuition and my body, learning to feel the subtleties before, like you mentioned, how things start to come in quiet, like a little whisper, right? So yeah, for me, it has really been having to get back into my body. So I'm really, really passionate about somatic work. And in the beginning, I would just pray. I would pray for myself to be able to see the messages. I'd be like, please show me a sign, and things would start happening, whether it was numbers or butterflies from my grandmother. One time I had somebody come up to me and she was like, "Are butterflies in the color purple significant to you?" And I was like, "Yeah, why?" And she's like, "I know this might sound strange, and I don't know you, but somebody is just telling me to tell you about the color purple and butterflies, and that you are doing such a great job, sweetheart, and that you're breaking generational trauma, and you're just doing such a good job." And I was like, oh my gosh, that's my grandmother. My grandmother's favorite color was purple,
How
and she was
beautiful.
obsessed with butterflies. So, I just in the beginning kind of needed those messages to know that, I guess, to build the faith. And then, I would start having things happen. Because I create a lot of content, I would often record myself when I would do breath work or do different things. I don't do it anymore because I believe that it's just such a sacred practice, and I don't want to record it. But at that time I would do time-lapse videos. And I had this experience where I was doing, and this was actually the first time that it came through that I was a healer. I was doing breath work, recording it, and the lights were going on and off, on and off, on and off.
I love it.
And that's when I got the first message that I'm a healer and I don't need to learn anything else. Yeah, and it just kind of has progressed as time has gone on. And I still don't have it all figured out,
Yeah.
learning as we go, but I can feel when they're with me. I can feel it in my body. Actually, when you were talking about your mentor, Sidra, I just got this overwhelming, beautiful, loving feeling throughout my body. And that describes perfectly what happens when they're with me. I
Yeah.
can feel it viscerally, and it's beautiful.
I love that. I love that. And Sidra, bless her, she does get around and she has a very loving vibration. And actually, I've had people message me from this podcast saying when they were listening to the podcast, they felt Sidra's energy around them. It's kind of when you open yourself up, and it all also comes down to our expectations. It's that when we ask for messages, I know I've worked with some people before, and it's like they'll ask for messages, but they're almost like testing their guides.
Mm-mm.
It's, your intention is so important, and also letting it go. It's like I'll often ask my guides, you know what, I just want you to show up and show off for me. Today, just that showing off could be just a beautiful cloud that I see. It could be just a great conversation. It could be a beautiful meditation. It could be, and this is the thing: if we let go of our expectations of how the messages are going to come through. Because I talk to so many people and they get frustrated about, I can't see anything. I can't see anything. Well, I was like, do you have an intuition? Do you feel, yeah, I have an intuition. Sometimes I feel things and I follow. I'm like, okay, isn't that beautiful, right? It's just because you can't see, it's your comparison to other people and your expectations of, as humans, when we see something, we believe it. And what if we could just trust our hearts? What if we could trust our intuition? And then who knows, in the future, maybe you will see, right? But does it really matter? So I
Yeah,
would recommend let go, right? Just trust in the magic of the moments. It could be, you could be in a conversation you're having. It could be something you're watching. It could be just as you're in nature seeing a butterfly.
right.
Doesn't, whatever that, as he's mentioned the numbers, it's just that there's so much magic around. So what would your advice be to someone who's listening to this podcast and, kind of saying, yeah, I understand what you're saying, but that's for other people. I don't have guides. I don't hear anything. Maybe I don't hear anything, or, what advice what advice would you give for somebody who's trying to connect with their guides and just feel the energies around them?
I would say start by tapping into your body and start to feel. I think, I really love those guided meditations where it's like, do the full scan of your body, feel this part and that part and this part and that part. So you can just feel your body and your own energy and get to know what that feels like. And, I once had a mentor tell me just really softly rub your arm up and down and then do it on the other side and see what differences you notice. Just tapping into the body that way. And don't, yes, ask for signs, but like you mentioned, the testing, right? Like they give you a sign and then you're like, oh no, I need another one. That
Yeah.
wasn't good enough, right? Like I've been there and it's tempting, but just you have to build that trust. And the way that we build the trust with the intuition is by allowing it to guide us so that we can prove to ourselves that it is, like what's the worst that happens if you
Yeah.
take that nudge and follow it. Are we going to let fear guide us, or are we going to lean in and allow the intuition to guide us? When we get messages, it's not, for me anyways, it's not like it comes in somebody else's voice and it's like super distinct, like I know who that is speaking to me. We have to investigate what's coming through and reflect on it and take time to really sit with that and break it down and understand it. And it is for everybody. It absolutely, we all have guides. We all can connect to God, spirit, whatever
Whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
yeah, whatever you want to call it. But it is available for all of us. It just might not happen overnight. It's a practice. Having a devotional practice like meditation every day has also been massive for me. And since I have started doing that, I feel like things are coming online so much more rapid. So yeah, definitely say meditation, breath work, those things that allow you to get out of the mind and into the body is such a great place to start.
And it's as you said, it's like our bodies give such a clue. It's like so often we look for things outside of ourselves, kind of this person, that person. I listen to, and of course, kind of listen to what you're guided to, but listen to your body. I mean, it's the best clue as to what's happening inside you and around you. Is what and be open to. For me, our guides. It's like building a relationship. It's like you can't start going out with somebody and then all of a sudden, kind of expect to have a deep and meaningful conversation about what, kind of the rest of your lives together. It's like, for me, take time to feel the energies around you first. Build that relationship, feel what, and it's just, we can do it now quickly if you don't mind. We
Yeah.
just close our eyes. If you're in a position and you're listening and you can do, if you can just close your eyes and just take a deep breath in and a breath out and just connect with your body. What are you feeling? Where are you feeling it? And if whatever you're feeling was giving you a message, what would that be? What's the first thing that comes through? And then from here, just take a moment and feel the energy around you. What do you feel? Where do you feel it? And what if that could be one of your guides? Whatever you're feeling, ask your guides to magnify that energy. And just open your heart and truly be open to what you're feeling. And trust what that feeling is, because what happens is your ego gets in the way. Don't. Whatever you felt, feel it. Allow yourself to feel it. And where else? If you again feel the energy around you, if you feel something else around you, where would you feel it? Does it have a color? Does it have an emotion? Remember that feeling, and next time you feel it around you, what if it's another one of your guides? Just do this simple exercise every day and see how things shift. Thank you for allowing me to do that. How was that for you, Kim?
It was good. I was hearing brighter days are ahead and bright white light, and the whole left side of my body was just feeling really, really good.
I love it. I love it. Left is feminine, right is masculine, so they say. So again, what do you feel? What do you feel? And the other thing, I know a lot of people love to Google stuff, right? And whatever platform you use, but I always love to trust my own intuition first. So what are you feeling around you? And just trusting your instincts. It's a muscle. The more you do it, the more that it's like you talked about meditation. You can't go to the gym one time and all of a sudden have a six pack, right? You've got to build the muscle, right? And this is the same thing with our guide with meditation. You can't. A lot of people say I can't meditate. You got to find your groove. And sometimes it's a guided meditation. Sometimes it's just focusing on your breath. I always recommend people start with 10 minutes silence. And again, everyone says I can't sit in silence. My mind's too busy. It's a muscle. So if you start off with, even if you start with 5 minutes, but if your thought comes through, don't get angry, because this is what we do. We try and sit in silence and the thought comes in, we get annoyed with ourselves. Oh my God, I couldn't even sit with 30 seconds. No, if a thought comes in, let it go. Comes in, let it go. And what you'll find if you do something continuously for a while, whether it's silence, whether it's a guided meditation, it starts to build up a muscle in you. Tony Robbins would say repetition is the mother of skill, right? If you keep doing something, you will start to build the muscle. And I always recommend 21 days. So why can't we find 10 minutes on our days just to be? And I always tell people, think of it as your time.
Yeah.
Think of it as, Nim's time, Kim's time, whatever it's that. Make it time for you because you're precious.
Yeah.
we come on podcasts like this, and I guess sometimes we make it sound simple, but you know, we've led intense lives too, right? I mean, so Kim, when I say to you that, you know, I feel like a lot of people that chose to be on the planet right now have chosen as a human existence some challenging times. How does that feel to you?
Yeah, I completely agree. And my life has been very challenging from pretty much birth, and it's still challenging now. Different types of challenges. You know, I find that if you don't learn the lesson the first time, you're going to face the same challenge, or it's going to magnify and get harder and harder and harder and harder until you get it. And it has taken me at times it having to get really, 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 really hard for me to finally be like, okay, I get it. Um, yeah, I think we are given these massive mountains to move so that we can show other people how to move them. And it's not going to get easier if we're not finding the lesson, right? So when I have challenges, that's when times are hard, that's when it's time to really buckle down on the self-care and the going inward and asking, what is the lesson here? Why is this happening for me? Not why is this happening to me? How is this happening for me? What can I learn? What can I gain from this? What is the lesson here? Because there's always a lesson.
I love it. I love it. You know, I'll always talk about the stages of healing, and you know, it's always interesting for me. It's like a lot of people say, you know, when I've healed this, then I can start doing this. For me, the healing journey is a lifelong journey. I don't feel it's like a one. You know, we shouldn't really be waiting for anything because we're a soul having a human experience. So the human experience is now. It's this moment. It's not when you know, when I go through this phase, then I can start showing up and you know, speaking my truth. Do it now. Do it now. And you know, I'll always say that the awareness is the first step, right? Without awareness, without you becoming aware of what's happening inside you, you can't do anything about it. And you gave a great example. How do you become more aware? You change your question. How often do we be in victim mode? It's like, oh my God, this always happens to me, or you know, I always make the same mistake, or this language that the conversation we have with ourselves. If we can change that conversation to, how is it serving me? How is this expanding me? Even questions like, what is this soul contract here to teach me? Is this soul contract complete? What that does, if you have an honest conversation with yourself, it increases the awareness. That doesn't mean that the next step could be easy, because your awareness may be that the soul contracts that you have in your life are done. You know, and it's just, I'll always say pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. So for me, if you stay in a soul contract that is complete, that's where the suffering comes in.
Yeah. Oh
And
yeah. And I have done that.
and that's the thing, we all have, right? It just, you know, there's no judgment.
Yeah.
But surely we have a choice to do something different moving forward. I'm just saying.
Yeah. So true. So true. And like I had mentioned before, I spent 13 years in a very toxic marriage. And had I made a choice sooner, there would have been a lot less suffering.
Yeah, here's the thing. None of us have time machines, right? And what's to say that you hadn't completed your soul contract? What's to say that you didn't
Mm,
weren't meant to stay? Because the thing that we have to remember is we wouldn't be this person we are today if we had an experience.
yes, I do believe that.
So you know, Tams, I would always focus on the moment. You know, the history is there to teach you something for sure, but it's not there to consume you.
Hmm.
And now I feel like we're getting to a point where we're getting more insights. We're becoming, you know, whatever way wiser. Um, And it's a choice now. So again, look at your soul contracts in your life, and are they complete? Because then again, what we tend to do, the next stage after acceptance is, the next stage after awareness is acceptance. Because once we become aware, let's say we go through and we ask, okay, is my soul contract complete? And then it's like, oh my God, the soul contract's complete. But hold on, it was maybe complete 10 years ago. Why have I stayed in this relationship? And all we start to go and we start to, don't do that. Next stage is always acceptance, right? Accept who you are, accept where you're at, and
Yeah.
then you can decide what you want to do next.
And I think the acceptance piece for me was something that I really struggled with for a long time. I would be able to get the messages and see the truth, but then I would gaslight myself and give myself all of the excuses that couldn't possibly be true, or, trying to, I guess, self-soothe in that moment to make myself feel better right then and there, then accepting that it's going to be painful for a little bit and I'm going to have to start healing this wound. But it has at times in the past just felt easier to not accept it. And, it's like battling with, I want the truth, but I don't really want to accept it.
Yeah. And I'm sure everybody can relate to that. Everyone's done that at some point. It's our expectations. It's like, let's say we go into a relationship, we have expectations of that fairy tale coming. It's like you're with somebody, and it's like when you started, obviously you had certain expectations, and it was beautiful, and there was but then both of you have changed, both of you have evolved as humans, as souls, and maybe you're not as aligned as you were. But it's just sometimes we live in the past, right? We live in what our expectations were, and also as humans, we don't like change. I talk a lot about this on this podcast. Everyone says, oh my God, I love change. Yeah, you love change when you can control change, when you know what's coming and you can, it's like you're in a roller coaster. You know that you're on a roller coaster.
Yeah.
If you're going to jump out of a plane, beautiful. Some people do embrace change. I 100% agree. But it's the unexpected change that causes disruption. And if a soul contract's coming to an end, there's going to be fear there. There is going to be fear, right? And it's just, what's it going to be replaced with? But this stage for me is really about taking that leap of faith. It's taking that leap of faith and just trusting and letting go. And I get it's really hard. Taking a trust fall, it's like, I'm not sure everyone's had the experience, but as a child, they sometimes make you just, two people are behind you and take that trust fall, lean back and just feel the two people behind you holding you up. That's what we're in right now, is we are being asked to take a trust fall, to lean back and just trust that we're going to be held.
Yeah. And in my experience, when I do trust and move forward with whatever the message is, whatever the intuition says, despite how scary it is, there is massive reward on the other side of that.
And it's just, the massive reward comes from that intuition, that acceptance of who we are. It's just this journey, the more that we can accept with a student, and just get excited with the lessons. I always remember Sid was getting excited whenever she was triggered. I'm like, why? She's like, because I'm ready for an expansion.
Yes.
We'll do that. If we're triggered by something, if we're going through something, what if we could get excited? I'm not sure I'm there yet, but I'm working in progress.
Yeah, I think, I definitely try to be that way too. In relationships, it's hard because we have our whole heart into them. So that can be a struggle with me, is finding the lesson in there. It really takes that repetitive over and over and over and over again being shown, and it getting harder and harder and harder for me to wake up to it. I'm like, I have a very sensitive, I'm very sensitive. So I will often try to soothe myself by convincing myself that everything's okay. Only in like my romantic relationships, I'm like that though. In every other relationship, I have the ability to see the lesson for what it is and do what I know I need to do. I'm now at a point where I will do that in the romantic relationship too, but I'm not excited about it. It doesn't,
Yeah,
yeah,
and that's because it
doesn't
is that
always
fear.
feel good.
Yeah, and here's that ending, right? It's just in our emotional, it is the most intense. It is the most expansive. It's what we're here to learn. And whoever that soul contract's with, there's still love there, right? It doesn't mean you stop
Yeah.
loving somebody. It just means that you realize the soul contract, because it's that whoever's in your life, whether it's blood, whether it's, kind of somebody you've met along the way, you have a soul contract with them. You ask them to teach you something in this lifetime. And by the way, a soul contract evolves. A soul contract could be with somebody to feel love for them. And maybe that soul contract also involves to be able to let that love go, to realize that that soul contract is complete. And maybe what does that look like? Is that your expectations of who each other are, the love that you had, isn't there anymore. But we do live in the past sometimes, right? Because we have the fairy tale, right? We have these expectations. Oh my God, I come into this life. I was expecting, to get married, have 2.4 kids, and have been this fairy tale. This is a human experience. Your soul is here to experience and expand in so many ways. And the more that we can be there for it, I'm not saying it's going to be easier. The more
Yeah.
expansive, the more into. What if the next phase of whatever we're going through can be more ease and grace than what we've been through? That's what I'd love to manifest. Is because we expand with pain. I get it. But what if we expanded just as much with love?
Yeah, I love that.
So Kim, I'd love. Yeah, go on.
I was just going to say, I'm thinking unconditional love and how, you know, a lot of times people will confuse unconditional love with unconditional tolerance. And it's like you can still, like you said, you can still love somebody and let them go and love them from afar if it's harmful to you. And
Yeah, but here's the thing. Here's the other thing is sometimes we love somebody. We know the soul contract is complete. We don't want to cause them pain.
mm,
And it's just, well, hold on. If we think back at the pain that we've experienced, we've expanded from that pain. We're not here to stop other people's pains. What if
yeah,
us staying in a soul contract is complete is actually stopping somebody else from healing?
right.
And selfishly, we do need to make it about ourselves. It is because we're a soul having a human experience, and it really is about the experience. Again, I get it, make it sound easy. This journey, especially now, feels so much more intense, and I feel like we're meant to be experiencing intense stuff. It's just an interesting time for sure. So Kim, I'd love for you to share. If people wanted to work with you, reach out to you, what's the best way? What can you provide? What can you get? How can you serve our listeners? What would that look like?
Yes. So currently I have a membership program that includes, it's called the Divine Activation, and it is to help women raise their consciousness and level of self awareness. We do a 15-minute daily check in Monday to Friday where I do emotional freedom technique tapping and breath work. And then there are also two healing sessions throughout the month for members, depending on the different tier that they're in. If anybody is looking to work with me or just wants to get to know me, they can follow me on Instagram, Kimberly_Staples. And I also do one-on-one coaching and have a mentorship program that I will be launching soon and starting in the new year. So they can stay tuned if they're interested in that.
I love that, and I include all your details in the show notes. You also have this amazing podcast you've started.
Oh, yes, the podcast. How dare I not mention that? The Unapologetic Uplift podcast. We just dropped episode 4 yesterday, and we release episodes once weekly on Wednesdays.
Love it. Unapologetic. What is it? Unapologetic
Unapologetic Uplift.
uplift. I love that. I love that. Because what are we apologizing for? I love that. I love that. And I always love asking any guest that's on here as we get to near the end of the podcast. It's great, people listen to the podcast and get lots of insight, but I always kind of like to leave with some sort of call to action. So I'm wondering if you have any affirmations, any journal prompts in your heart that you'd love to share with the audience.
Yeah, so I think a great prompt would be, where am I being true to myself and where am I not being true to myself? And then feeling into it. Authenticity is something that I will preach until the cows come home, because while it isn't easy to live our truth and show up authentically, life becomes so much better when we do. It is such a high frequency to be vibrating on, and it has changed my life.
Beautiful. So, so beautiful. So deep. I love it. I love it. Yeah, if my voice resonates, if anybody wants an Akashic record reading or mentorship, reach out to me. You can schedule a free discovery call. I love this space. I love what I get to do on this podcast. Kim, thank you for agreeing to be on this podcast. I've loved our conversation. I'm sure we could talk for many more hours. Thank you for your heart. Thank you for your passion. And thank you for agreeing to be here. I'm sending so much love and light out to all the listeners. And Kim, I'd love for you to close us out.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you to everybody that took the time out of their day to listen. Love and appreciate you all. And make sure you subscribe to the Spiritual Journey podcast. Have a great one.
Thank you. Sending so much love and light out. Bye, everybody.